Coming live from an emergency bunker, the president has declared that we are in a state of emergency. This is the Say Report. I am your host, Season Sarowick. Sorry, I'm crawling right now through the dirt to get into our bunker. Waiting here, of course, is Devon Decker. Devon.
Siegen, I'm very happy that you found us.
But we're here. We would come to you no matter what the emergency was. We would be here in your ears. Don't worry, everybody.
We are here. We are here. The who you are hearing is the Say Report.
It's crazy, man. Here we are. We started off this year with the government not even working, and now we're in the middle of the government on like high alert steroids. Like,
if I could talk for a second, the thing that really bums me out is I had money riding on the government shutting down again today.
It's the total opposite, man.
No one had this. All of that money just, I think, goes into a trust. We might be in a tontine situation.
I feel like John Carpenter probably had money on this somewhere. Like right now, he's in the middle of making like Escape from El Paso. Like he's like, I got this.
That's mean to El Paso.
Hey, man.
That is the next logical choice, though, right? We did both coasts, middle of Texas.
No, I'm not letting you get away without giving me my politics points on this. They are also one of the biggest cities. They are also one of the biggest cities on the border right now. They're in the middle of this fight. And everybody that's been there over the last month has talked to people who are just like, why the hell are you guys paying attention to us? and I want to tell them, don't worry, it won't be for long.
You say that, but this could be the first step towards dictator Trump, not just President Trump. I mean, this is
not just Dick Trump.
The craziest thing about this, well, politics, the Say Report, literally a show about everything. This is not unprecedented or unprecedented. I mean, they have all declared, there have been cases of them declaring national emergencies and national states of emergencies before. Mm-hmm. Where this becomes fucking scary is that basically what President Trump has done has said, these are my fucking toys. You're going to play the game the way I want to play it, or you can go home.
Yeah. I think the last time Obama declared a state of emergency, and he did it twice, I believe, in his time. Once was for Libya, but that was like way early, and nobody disagreed with him on that. I think the only other time was for swine flu or something, right? Like,
yep, H1N1. During the H1N1 pandemic, which is literally how that is.
Yeah, which again nobody argued with because it literally was an emergency, a state of emergency. People were dying. Oh man. I just wanted to acknowledge where we were in the timeline with this particular episode so that people understand where we're coming from. You know, it's always good to place our arguments in context. So here we are. But right now it's you and me, man.
Yes,
talk to each other.
You and I
don't know. Something happens. I don't know. What is President Trump going to think happened to me?
I don't know. The state of emergency is the fact is that caravans are coming. Mm-hmm. And if we don't deal with it now, then we'll be up to our balls in jugglers.
Fantastic, and also not an unpoignant reference. Oh my God,
fascism. The fact that it's a fascist state, Sanford.
Oh God, yeah, man, it's crazy. This year has been nuts so far, and like, you know, we've never been one to shy away from politics. It's just not what we ever really focus on. So like, I didn't want to shy away from this because you can't right now. I mean, this is the world that we are in at the moment. Okay, so anyway,
so you there's those moments in your life that you remember where you were, right? Everybody remembers who was alive at the time. Remembers where they were when we landed on the moon, when Kennedy was shot. Yeah, you know, literally the same weekend. That's fucked up, right? No, it's not the same weekend. I'm sorry. It's not the same weekend because we didn't go to the moon until years and years later. What happened the same weekend was Chappaquiddick. We landed on the moon the same weekend Ted Kennedy killed that girl on Chappaquiddick Island.
The one that I always get stuck in for people that are in our lifetime would be 9/11, right?
Yeah,
like,
when I was building up to that, but I didn't want to. The thing is, I want to make sure that everyone knows that
you can't just throw 9/11 at everybody and freak them out. Gotta ease them into that.
Well, it's not just that. It's that it's not a unique experience to us in 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
but 9/11 was such a fucking from out of nowhere that like it struck our generation, but we're not the only people who were ever struck or affected that way. Like we don't actually
Right.
have a monopoly on being surprised by something happening in the world.
Oh, you mean on crisis? No,
No.
America does not have a monopoly on
No,
crisis.
I
That's
meant
for sure.
millennials,
Oh,
which that's more what I was referring to. Because it's just that 9/11. First of all, this is gross what I'm about to say, but 9/11 rolls off the tongue so much easier than when JFK was shot.
that's almost by design, Devon. Like, I don't want to be conspiratorial on this particular subject because there's a lot of actual serious stuff to be said about this particular incident. But I do not doubt that there was definitely somebody that PR'd the fuck out of what do we call this crisis when we're talking about it. And I bet you Donald Rumsfeld was at least in the room when that conversation happened, if he was not the one leading it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to our new co-host, Michael Moore.
Oh yeah, never in a million years.
No. It was too good not to call you that. But yeah, so it's one of those things where, but I'm also going to remember where I was when Donald Trump, our president, declared a tantrum state of emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was walking to the bathroom and the lobby of the building I work in has a TV and he's on it. And I'm like, what is he talking about today? Right? Am I finally going to win the pot because he's shutting down today? Like I literally had today in the pot. And then I'm watching it and he's like, so I'm declaring a state of emergency. And I'm like, this isn't really happening, right? I have to still be dreaming. I fell into a coma because I ate too much steak last night for Valentine's Day. And this is what's happening. But no, it's life.
And you were there, and you were there, and you were there. Yeah, well, as you were watching The Cowardly Lion, like, let's not forget what he was actually saying was he used the phrase, I kid you not, he used the phrase, I could do this slower. I could take my time with this, but I'm not going to. Literally undermining, undercutting any argument he could possibly make about the legality of calling this an emergency. The second he said, I could do this slower, it was just like, oh, so this isn't an actual emergency then? Like, and that was a phrase that was used in his declaration of a state of emergency in this country. So that is where we're at. Just so everybody's on the same page.
And I guess the final page before we close the book on this and hopefully
Please.
get to happier topics is he was playing golf this afternoon, wasn't he? I'm pretty sure he went and started to go play golf. So on his schedule, declare national state of emergency, 18 holes.
We're all fucked. Now get out of my way. I have to make par.
How good a golfer do you think he is? He golfs a lot. I imagine that he's at least been like under par on a course, right?
On his course, he probably always hits under par on his own course because he probably
Yes,
has
we've
people
all
out
seen
there
that
just
episode
throwing
of Rocco's
balls.
Modern Life. Thank you. That's a good episode of Rocco's Modern Life, though.
I don't know, man. I just the golf conversation is a weird conversation because it's something that people have used for years to try and like undermine presidencies. They're always like, oh yeah, but he's still playing golf, or he's at least taking that vacation, or he's doing this, and it's just like, look, I don't care what you got to do as president to blow off steam. You're the president of the United States. Your finger is on the button. If you need to go play 3 or 4 rounds of golf a week in order to not just kill us all, fine, that's fine, do it. But you don't get to you don't get to talk about how there is an emergency in this country and then not go right to work fixing it. You don't get to do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, so it's emergency, but my plane leaves in 20 minutes.
So I'll be back in 2 weeks. Bye, guys. It's like, thanks, man.
Yeah, that's really
boy.
the other thing. So we got 7 more seconds to talk about this. Any last words before we transition away? Not that this wasn't a poignant, important thing to discuss, but
I don't know.
I don't want to get
Baba Booey,
mired
Baba Booey,
in it.
Baba Booey.
Howard Stern's penis.
That's about the level that we're on for this. So there you go, everybody.
I mean, it's
But
it's legitimately scary. Like today was the first day where I'm like, so what's the next move from where I'm sitting?
well, I joked about John Carpenter earlier, but isn't that literally how Escape from LA and Escape from New York start? The president has declared a state of emergency. Like the violence in these cities has gotten so out of hand that is the plot line for those movies. And people talk about them as fantastic fantasy films. And here we are, man.
Wait, I thought that they were prison states. Like, I thought they were also shipping bad people to them. Like, it
Right,
starts with the state of emergency, and then they're like, so why don't we
right.
just send all the assholes there?
Right. They wall them off because the violence and drug use and everything has gotten so bad in those areas that they literally declare them just war zones, wall them off, and then use them as prison colonies to throw other people. Like, so is that what's going to happen along the border? Are we going to put a 10-mile like radius around that we're just going to be like, this is where we just put all the bad people so that they could be the first in line when those terrible caravans come over?
Well, I mean, that would sort of defeat it being a border wall. One would imagine that if you built a wall, if you, like, kept a portion of the U.S. there, then Mexico gets to be like, well, we own that now. Like, you built the wall, idiots. You should have surveyed before you put your fence up.
Oh man.
Except
Yeah, this
when
is gonna
like
be nuts.
you have to like weed whack. It's like I'm not weed whacking your side of the fence. It's on your property.
Oh man. God, this is gonna be a crazy couple of years, folks. Buckle in. Like we got 2 years ahead of us where we don't know what's gonna happen in 2020, but 2019 and the early parts of 2020 are gonna be insane.
Thanks, CJ. That was a real sobering speech you gave.
Yeah, well, again, just so we're all aware of where we're starting from. So, man, heard you went to the movies this week.
I did go to the movies this week. That's a fine starting place. I saw Alita: Battle Angel,
Yeah.
the movie that's
Are,
been like 2 years coming.
yeah, right. They've been
Well,
talking
more.
about it. Well, they've been
think
showing, yeah, the
James
previews that
Cameron
we've
wrote.
seen,
Well,
and
James Cameron wrote the script in 1995, and it took a backseat to Titanic. Like he was like ready to do this movie 24 years ago.
so you got to answer the question that's on everybody's mind that has any idea about this movie. Is it as hard to watch as it seems like it might be, like visually, with her eyes being like, "What's going on there?"
Oh, well, first of all, you have to remind yourself that it's not a sequel to Big Eyes. That was the first thing I did, is that this is not the sequel to Big Eyes.
But Christoph Waltz is right there the whole time.
And that girl's got some pretty big eyes! No.
Oh my God. Yeah, man.
Sorry.
Like,
But
is
no,
it
it's not.
like,
You sink right into it. I mean, like anything like that, you eventually acclimate to it, and you acclimate to it pretty quick, because they treat it as special the first time she opens up her eyes, but then it becomes pretty like bog standard.
yeah. Well, they acknowledge it, right? So that's good. That's good to hear that they acknowledge it because that's the thing about like what we're talking about is essentially uncanny valley, right? Like looking at a thing and just being like, my brain cannot wrap around the fact that that is like a physical thing that I'm supposed to grow attached to, and in movies that's doubly so because your brain is already kind of trying to make that leap, knowing that it's actors and not real, right? But to then add to that this like I don't know, like hard mode version of movie watching of just like we're gonna surround her by regular looking humans, and then we're gonna do this one thing that's gonna make her just be so weird. Yeah, so I do know that that's been the big thing that everybody, people who have not even seen the movie, are having full on conversations about the effect of that movie that they do with her face. I'm
Yeah, it
glad to hear
goes.
about
It goes. You know what it is though? It's basically. I know you haven't watched The Orville, and I know that the proper reference point would be Star Trek, but
Yeah,
The Orville is my Star Trek, so that's what I'm going to use.
go
Is
for it.
they have these people on the bridge who are aliens, right? They
Right,
do
right,
not look like humans,
right.
and yes, it's initially very distracting, but then as you watch the show and get to know them outside, like internally, right?
Right, right.
I mean, it's also I'm the wrong person to ask. Is this movie hard to watch because of the eyes? Because Devon Decker
Has a thing
almost
for eyes.
no, almost by definition doesn't care about your outward appearance. I'm all about the internal person.
Right.
So the second that they give the backstory on what exactly she is, that she is slight spoilers for Alita Battle Angel, but it comes up, I'm gonna say 10 minutes into the movie, and that's me being generous.
Yeah.
She is actually a living human brain placed inside of a robotic, she's a cyborg.
Yeah, I didn't think that was a mystery. I thought that was the plot.
I guess based on the trailers, I thought it was sort of an AI thing.
Oh, okay, I see what you're
Where
saying.
she had
Yeah,
become
but this is like,
sentient.
but this is like an actual brain, not a computer
It's
brain.
not a computer brain. He
Okay.
talks about the fact that inside of you is a normal teenage brain.
Oof.
And that's why, and so like the second he says that, I'm like, oh, okay. So that explains why she needs to eat food. Because there are nutrients that your brain requires.
Right, right, right.
But then like they also, the biggest issue with Alita Battle Angel for me is there's a lot of gobbledygook. And it gets in its way a lot. So they make this.
Wait, what do you unpack that a second? What do you mean by gobbledygook? Like nonsensical backstory? Is the dialogue up its own ass? Like, what is it?
It's just that like, oh, this is a cool thing. Let's put it in there, and then maybe it gets referenced again, but probably not. And
I will say, as much as I am not a big James Cameron apologist, I am not a fan of the nonsense that is Avatar and all that sort of stuff. I do think that he's usually pretty good about just sticking to just a concept. Like take a look at like Terminator, right? Like it is a pretty clean movie for all of its weird sci-fi nonsense. It is pretty clean in its execution of that, right? And I think that's exactly the problem with things later on, like Terminator Genesis and stuff, is that the more that James Cameron kind of gets away from, well, I guess T2 was his baby, right? Or did he do the first one?
he definitely did the first one.
The first one, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But like either way, like when he touches something, and I will give this to him. Titanic is another really good example of this. Like, is a pretty straight shot from A to B, and as weird as it might be, like you are along for the ride because he can carry you for that. So I don't think Avatar, taking the example that I don't even like, I don't think Avatar's big issue is its storyline. Like it is pretty clear what it is. I think Avatar's got a lot of other issues, but that's a whole other episode. So like it's interesting that you talk about this being a shelved project of his, because it seems almost like he kind of knew that there was too much going on in this, and it needed some time and space.
Well, so he talks about like Titanic came along, so I had to put it aside, but it was sort of a blessing that Titanic happened because I knew that the movie I wanted to make was impossible with the like limitations of technology in 1995.
And film in general, right?
Yeah.
Like technology, and also like how audiences watch movies and all of that, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
But then Avatar comes along, hits, and he says, so Alita's never going to happen. He's like, Alita can't happen. I'm now committed to the world of Avatar.
Yeah,
Which,
probably till the day he dies.
real committed to that world. It's been 10 years. Where's our Avatar sequel? You've literally been talking about it since opening weekend of Avatar.
Well, I will again. I cannot believe I am in the stance of defending.
I can't
James
believe,
Cameron
yeah, no,
here.
right? I'm sorry.
Because like again, like I don't have a major love for the guy, so I don't want this to come across as me just like, I also don't hate the guy though too, which is why it's easy for me to kind of dip into this role. But I will say that one of the things about Avatar, even the first one included, it has always been this. There's always been more going on behind the screen than on the screen with that movie, you know? And I also think that he's had his hands in them opening up that whole theme park around Avatar. He is trying to get these sequels made, and it's not just one. Isn't it like 3?
It's 3. It might be 4. Like
That they're
I
filming
think,
like simultaneously, right?
yeah.
Like, isn't the whole thing they're gonna do like Lord of the Rings style and just straight shot it like one film and just essentially by the time they're halfway through the third film making it, that's when the first one will be ready to come out and he'll just be like, all right, now we can start putting this out there, what we've been doing for the last 3 years of filming. I am not surprised that he's been spending 10 years at the table with this movie, is what I'm getting at. So like, give him as much shit as you want about how much he talks a big game. At the end of the day, he's gonna release it and it's gonna make another
Oh yeah,
$1.5 billion.
no, and I understand that. Even as someone who like, I didn't see Avatar until 2014.
Really?
Like I did not see it in 2009 when it came out, and then like I went to the ocean, and then I came back, and I'm like, I really have no desire to ever watch this movie. And the only reason I did watch it is because of a movie exchange with friends on a couch. Like
Yeah.
like you watch this movie, I'll watch that movie, and the one chosen for me was Avatar. Like I still would be a person who
Out
had
of
never
spite?
seen the movie. I don't know. It also that show also got me to watch Inception, and I
Mm.
freaking loved Inception.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
movie was just a movie I missed because I was on the ocean when it came out.
Yeah, 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 man. Yeah,
Um,
well, I don't know. Avatar's a funny beast, and so it brings him to finally like. So he's not the one that gets to do Alita, then, right?
right. So he says that Alita's never gonna happen, and Robert Rodriguez, I guess, was like hiding underneath his table when he said that, because then he popped out and he's like, "Well, you can't shelf the project, though, James. Can I? Can I try?"
Never one to let a project die, even when maybe it should.
So James Cameron's like, "I'll give you the script, but there's no way this script in its current form can get made." So to me, hearing that, reading that, to me says the script as it stood at the time of this mythical meeting where Robert Rodriguez was under James Cameron's coffee table, did go from A to B
Yeah,
and did connect, and it's just like, come along for this ride with
yeah,
this cyborg girl and the world that she lives in. And I'm all about that. But then Robert Rodriguez gets it, and he cuts it down from whatever size it was to 125 pages.
yeah. The like 3 movie epic it probably needed to be down to this one movie like Robert Rodriguez fest.
It covers 4 volumes of the manga Gundam that it's based on. So, like,
Jeez,
just to put
man.
that into perspective, it's 4 volumes. It'd be like, well, it'd be like if the first Sin City covered 4 volumes, which it kind of does. So, but because of that, there is stuff that is introduced that I'm sure if James Cameron had stayed on the project and wanted to take us on this ride, you would have gotten a full, satisfying time with it. But
Yeah.
knowing that someone took a machete, Jesus, I hate myself so much
Oh, there it
for the
is.
pun I just stumbled into, to the script. You can feel like, so that was gonna be more meaningful. Like, it has to have been. It's Chekhov's gun, really. You don't introduce something if it's not gonna go anywhere. And then one of the worst parts about the film is there's this moment of redemption, and then after that moment of redemption, they try to just stuff as much in because they realize they're almost at the 2-hour mark.
Oh, shit.
So you have this like moment where I'm like, that's a fine place to end this movie. And then it's like, oh, but we haven't set up for the sequel. So stuff. I hope you got it all.
Ugh.
I hope you understood what's happening. And I'm like, no, really, it just looks like, I'm going to use the word, it's gobbledygook. It's just like all this nonsensical stuff kind of like strung together near the end so that it can be part of this like epic, there's going to be a sequel. And it's I don't know. And that all right, so bigger spoiler for Alita Battle Angel. I am fucking sick and tired of the like leading lady, the love interest. That's the term I want. Of the love interest being an irredeemable fucking jerk from the start.
Yeah.
Because then I don't get invested in that character.
Yeah.
Like, you need to let me get invested in a character before you make them a heel. Because then it's like, I want to understand how this person who was so nice and who I liked is this other way. And then you can reveal the reason why, and I'm like, oh, so that's a real reason. Like, that's a good reason why you're a jerk. But if they're just a jerk from the onset, it's like, so why would I ever get invested in you? And, like, all I want to do is scream at the screen, this guy's a bad guy. Walk away. Find yourself a nice Macintosh Newton to settle down with. He'll be way less complicated than what you currently got going on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, look, if you were trying to find a movie that wasn't going to be full of tropes, you went to the wrong director.
Well,
Like,
no, but that's the thing, though, is that I'm okay with tropes in cinema, right? Mm-hmm. Tropes as tools make perfect sense. I mean, Chekhov's gun is a trope.
right.
So it's like, okay, so you introduced that. I'm sure it will be significant. Oh, that never came up again, did it? That's a shame. That's a real shame. And like I was going to say, and the initial thing, they make this whole big deal about you have a human brain, so it needs all of the things that human brains need. And then they have this sequence where she goes underwater and is just walking underwater for a long time. And I'm like, doesn't the brain need oxygen?
At what point does that brain get oxygen in this sequence? Like, at least give me a one-off line of nonsense dialogue to cover it. Like, we installed oxygen tanks on either side of your brain head. Like, give me that. Give me something.
Or like, or the way that your body functions, you're able to breathe water because there's oxygen in water.
Yeah.
We just separate the hydrogen out. You vent the hydrogen. Like, give me one line of dialogue that sounds pseudoscientific, and then I can go on with my day.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing is, like, as much as I notice this kind of crap in movies, I do feel like actually a really easy audience member. Like, I don't care that the science doesn't make sense. Just at least attempt to give it to me. You know, these people out there that like bitch and moan about like the star placement in Titanic. Like, I can never get on that level, right? But then, like, the kind of people out there that are just totally willing to forgive a movie because, like, this person just has wings. There's no explanation as to why this person has wings. Looking at you, Jupiter Ascending. Like, there's no real reason why this particular race would have wings.
They're from a different planet. There's your hand wave explanation.
Except that the other people, no, they don't even give you that, because they explain that the only reason they in particular have wings is because they are the authority on that planet. So were they given those wings? Because those are definitely growing out of the back of his body, but they don't say it that way.
I like Jupiter Ascending, though. I'm tired of people pooping on Jupiter Ascending, and I like to lead a battle.
I'm looking at my Blu-ray copy of it sitting right over here on my wall right now. Don't worry, Jupiter Ascending.
I'm sorry,
is
your
safe in this
Blu-ray
podcast.
copy of Jupiter Ascending framed? The way that you just presented that made like, I have a framed. I never want to watch it again, but I believe that the Blu-ray should be owned and displayed for all to see.
No, what I mean is it is literally out on my desk right now because I had it out to watch it recently.
Okay, so I don't want to be like a great philosopher, but why?
Oh man, because we were watching some movie the other night, and we were talking about the sci-fi in it not working, and me being okay with it, and everybody else in the room being like, I hate it when the science doesn't work. And I'm like, I don't care when the science doesn't work. I just like when there's at least some explanation. And I pointed out, like, Pacific Rim is great for that. There's a lot of really weird stuff in that movie that really doesn't make sense when you think too hard about it. What were we talking about? Maybe it was Relive. Maybe it was when I was talking to some people about Relive. They were talking about how if you thought about the science in that movie, it started to fall apart. And I was like, well, yeah, but the whole point is that movie is so good at making you not think about it. You're so invested in the suspense and the thriller of it that you're not thinking about the, like, timey-wimey nonsense of the timeline shit, which is what every good time travel story should do, because time travel science is utter crap. And I was like, and then... And essentially it devolved into that conversation that you and I just had with the same conclusion, Jupiter Ascending being the ultimate thing to hold up, to be like, look, you want a movie that's full of utter crap but still fun to watch?
Yeah, it's you're not wrong. No, but I think the issue that I have with Alita is they have that sciencey explanation for, like, you have a human brain in your head, that's why you need to eat, because you have sugar levels that you need to maintain. Like, it has nutrients that it requires. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's perfect. Because why would a cyborg's sugar levels matter unless, oh yeah, no, the brain requires sugar to function.
Yeah.
Like that's something that we know. You need all your various closes, your glucose and your fructose.
So I have a question about this movie, Devin.
Yes, please. I would love
Is
to answer it.
is it out in China yet?
I don't know.
You know, I'm curious to see how it performs in that market because I am also thinking about all of the issues that we have talked about over the last few months with movies like, say, Aquaman, and the idea that like it's always form over substance. Like that's just what that whole movie really comes down to after a while. And that's okay. Like movies are totally fine to be that way. It's just that that's not necessarily what makes a movie good by our Western standards, right? Meanwhile, that movie does like fucking gangbusters over in China, right? And ends up doing like $700 million, bringing it over the $1 billion mark and making Warner Brothers go, maybe this next movie we make, we just make it exactly the same because we'll just make $1 billion again. Who cares if critics don't like it? And it's like that's a very dangerous game to play, right? But like a movie like this almost feels like I don't know, it deserves an audience that doesn't care about its like problems and its inconsistencies, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know, maybe part of that is the Robert Rodriguez thing, maybe part of it is the manga aspect. It's just this idea that like it feels like from what I have seen and know about this movie, it's not asking you to care about the science in a way.
Yeah, that's the exact thing. So Dale and I, as we're driving home after we watch this movie, we're sitting there and we both had the exact same complaints. And one of them was this love interest who like was a huge issue because you never really care about him and his motivations don't really track, and what is the point of how of his story? Like his arc is nothing. Anything that you feel through Alita. You feel nothing actually for him. Which that's an interesting thing. But then I'm like, but then both of us, you know, it was silent after we like declared basically the same thing. And then we both spoke at the same time, but I still really enjoyed the film. So even though there's all these problems, I enjoyed the film. And
Fantastic.
So, and basically that's that, I mean, first of all, that's Robert Rodriguez to a T, right?
Yeah.
If you have an issue with the movie, it's like, yeah, but did you like the movie? And I'm like, yes, I liked Spy Kids for whatever it was,
right.
all the time in the world.
Shorts.
Oh, I love Shorts. James Spader.
Oh man, isn't that the one with John Cryer as the dad too?
Yeah,
Isn't
John
he?
Cryer
Yeah.
and Leslie Mann.
Listen,
They
as the parents.
share a body because of a wish on the rock. What a weird movie that I watched last year for the first time.
Man. But you're not wrong, right? Right? Like Robert Rodriguez kind of he lives in this universe. He lives in this world where he's not making this movie for depth, right? Like he's like the depth will come. Like it's not that his movies do not have a depth to them because there's definitely plenty of them, plenty of it. Even to something like Machete, right? Like if you want to pull back and talk and look at it, there are people out there that are, scholars that are just basing their whole academic careers writing about like the films of Robert Rodriguez and about like what like the symbolism and all that stuff in it. But I don't think he's doing it on purpose. Whereas you have a director like, just to give a counterexample, somebody like Wes Anderson, where the art form always comes first. And then if you happen to get the movie you do, or if you don't, then you just don't get him. And he's totally fine with that. Like he's okay with that as a person. Robert Rodriguez just wants to entertain you. And if the art comes, he's like, okay, that's great. Sure, there's art there too, I guess. But that's never his main goal, right? Like, yeah,
so
it's
I
interesting.
understand why Wes Anderson was your go-to there, but we have a living, breathing example in Grindhouse. And Grindhouse is Planet Terror and Death Proof. And the most notable thing
You mean
about
as a comparison, is that what you're saying?
yeah, as a comparison,
Yeah.
but specifically one thing that both of those films do, and Quentin Tarantino, because he's the cock of the walk, he's the bigger deal than Robert Rodriguez, which I will honestly never understand. Like if I'm going to see a Robert Rodriguez movie, I know on some level I'm going to enjoy it.
Right.
Quentin Tarantino, I'm like, this could end poorly for me. I could be wasting 3 hours of my life. I understand that when I see a Tarantino movie. It's just how it is. So when I went to go see Grindhouse in 2007, hoping against hope that Death Proof would be the A, and then Planet Terror would be the B movie.
Nope.
Which, first of all, doesn't make sense, because of those two movies, if they were together, there's no way Planet Terror wouldn't be the B movie.
Yeah, of course, because it's the movie that you would drink and get drunk to and forget about what you just saw in Death Proof.
Yeah, exactly. It was weird that they went in that order.
Mm-hmm.
But Tarantino was all around talking about the missing reel thing in the film, and how, like, he got the idea because he got a movie once where it was missing a reel, and blah, 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 blah. I 100% maintain to this day that was Quentin Tarantino taking credit for Robert Rodriguez's idea regarding a reel missing.
Maybe.
But the reason why is I have read the script for both of those movies.
Mm-hmm.
And the script for Death Proof, and if you buy Death Proof on DVD, it has everything that was in that missing reel is intact.
Yeah, he made the reel and then pulled it out. Whereas with Robert Rodriguez, it is part of the joke that there is an entire reel missing.
His script is written. Yeah. The thing starts to go. Oh no, it's on fire. Missing reel comes up. We come back, and everything has fucking changed.
Everything is going to shit.
Like the stage direction is like everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong.
Right.
And I look at that and I'm like, because that's funny. That plays with the idea of I'm watching this movie and the reel is missing, and then I come back and it's like, well, what the fuck did I miss?
I have missed like so much of the plot development at this point. I cannot follow.
When did that character get there? Why is the place on fire? Like, you ask all of these questions, and there's no definitive answer. Where the missing reel, and also you need to consider the fact that it's a reel, so it would be a huge fucking change like that. The missing reel of Death Proof is Stuntman Mike being like creepier and more flirtatious with the girls that he's going to hunt down the next day at the bar. Yeah. And like them also kind of going along, but it's literally a scene. It's not a reel's worth of footage that is missing. So it may have been Tarantino's idea. I may be way off when I say that it was Robert Rodriguez's idea and Quentin Tarantino took credit. But if it was Tarantino's idea, Robert Rodriguez took it and utilized it 1,000 times better.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because he understands people are seeing this movie to have fun. It is a schlocky fucking zombie movie.
Yeah.
Nothing would be funnier to me. I'm Robert Rodriguez right now. Nothing would be funnier to me than for a reel missing to come up and everything has changed.
You want my Eggs Benedict recipe? Oh man.
Speaking of Robert Rodriguez, I have to tell people, watch, I believe it's the 24th, it's the season 2 of it's episode 24 of season 2 of the Cleveland Show. Which is on Hulu. When they go to Comic-Con, it is called Hot Cocoa Bang Bang.
Hot Cocoa Bang Bang.
And the Robert Rodriguez character in that, first, it's Robert Rodriguez playing himself. But what they do in that, I mean, that is a great episode about nerd culture and consumerism and how, like,
there's even some Avatar jokes in it.
The corporate overlords have ruined nerd culture in a lot of ways by realizing it's a huge cash cow to be milked. So that part of it's hilarious, but also all this talk about Robert Rodriguez, all I can think of is him sitting there with his hat down playing guitar mysteriously.
Yep. That's him, man. Like, and that's one of the things that like really kind of divides him and Tarantino. You know, like for anybody that is like is not in on like the like really nerdy aspect of all this, like they came up together through the independent film like rebirth of the 90s. Like, you know, like it kind of died off in the 80s, and you didn't really have you didn't really have grindhouses anymore. You didn't have guys out there that were putting all of their money into movies and like just losing it, right? What you had was it Hollywood cleaned itself up, but in cleaning itself up, lost a lot of its like fun edges, you know, and that's always what happens, you know,
Which is
when you
really
just
crazy because all of them were doing coke.
well, right,
So the
like
edges are in the production room, just
right.
not on the screen.
Right, that was it. Is they cleaned up their image, not necessarily their style, right? And in cleaning up their image, they got rid of a lot of these guys. Like, so in the early '90s, you end up with these guys that kind of have the big comeback, which is Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, right? And working together and really trying to push that image that like we can still make independent film even in this day and age of like corporate culture of Hollywood, you can still get really good independent artists in there doing stuff, you know. And in a lot of ways, it's what leads to guys like Kevin Smith, and then eventually, you know, you get into the 2000s and you have like the indie darling birth and all that shit, right? Like, and
Which,
so to see them now, right? Sorry, go ahead.
no, speaking of that indie darling birth, it is the 25th anniversary of Fox Searchlight Pictures this year.
Holy shit!
Because one of the trailers before Alita had the Fox Searchlight, and then it went black and white and said 25 years, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, right? What do the math on that really quick? It's 2019, so that
It's
brings them back to
94.
96, 94.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because Dale's
Yeah,
gonna
that,
be 25 this year. So
yeah. Yeah, no, so there it is, right? And right there, early 90s, you get the idea of the independent film coming back, even kind of wrapped up in the corporate culture, and you can argue about whether or not that's independent all you want, but that's the world we live in now, right? And so now here you look at it, you see this movie that Robert Rodriguez is making for, you know, for a large company, right? Is it Fox behind this one too then?
yeah, 20th Century Fox, because there's a
Yeah.
really cool moment with I love when title cards get changed,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
have a
yeah.
really good one about that. So
Nice. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. DreamWorks does that shit the best though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Universal playing
That's
the
true.
the
That's true.
chiptune version of their theme before Scott Pilgrim was
With
really
the
good.
8-bit, yeah, with
Yeah.
the 8-bit title
Oh,
card is
what
pretty
about
awesome.
the Dark Universe opening too?
Yeah,
When
that's
that was
true.
so good before the Mummy. It's a
Well, and
shame we're not
Universal
getting
also
any of
did the
those.
Jurassic Park one at some point, right?
Yeah,
Didn't they do something for Jurassic Park? Yeah.
yeah.
So, but you end up with these guys now that are doing these kinds of movies, and look at where they are, right? Now, anytime Tarantino does a project, Hollywood stops on its fucking heels to like pay attention and give him the world to make sure that it gets done, no matter what, right? Like they'll do anything. They'll give him years to do it. They'll give him any amount of money he needs, as much time, any actor that they need. People will drop out of projects to go be in Tarantino's project. Like that's what they do. Robert Rodriguez is still out there just being like picking up the scraps. Like James Cameron's like, I'm never gonna make this, and Robert Rodriguez is just like, I got you, I got this one, I got this one, guys. Don't worry, there's still meat on this bone, I promise. And it's awesome because in a lot of ways he's still fighting that good fight to show that people can just make a movie, have fun while they do it, and still make a buck. You know, still make a living, and that's pretty awesome.
As long as you have a million pockets on your jacket and your pants, you're fine.
Danny Trejo on your side, you're good to go.
Danny Trejo's on everybody's side. Seriously, bit of a PSA. If you're in the LA area and you want Danny Trejo to be in your movie, contact Danny Trejo.
Yep.
He'll probably do it.
Oh, he has openly admitted that he does not say no to a script. He has done so many student projects and so many other like weird indie films, and he said it's literally because as long as he's got time in his day to do it, he will show up and do it.
Right.
Like,
That's why I say probably. Because you don't know. He might be busy making Machete 3D, which would be awesome.
yes. Can we finally acknowledge that he's the kid's uncle from Spy Kids? That would be the best if that was the crossover realization.
Especially if it were the two kids, like, as adults. Like,
well, she was in Machete too, right? I
yeah,
think like she was, but that doesn't matter for Robert Rodriguez. Like, who cares?
you
But
need
yes,
Junie.
if it was,
If
yeah,
Junie were in it, everybody would be like, okay, so he needs to make a Uncle Machete.
Oh man. Oh God. Yeah, man. Like I'm glad you ended up enjoying it despite its faults because I could feel that it wasn't going to be one of those movies that was going to just kind of blow everybody away from a critical standpoint. I mean, anybody could have seen that coming from a mile away because we've talked about the fact that the movie was alive for 2 years in everybody's mind, and that's never a good sign, right? But I'm glad to hear that it is still worth watching.
Oh, it was great. I really enjoyed it. And I highly recommend it. And also, they definitely Sejan's Gambit in the trailers because Dale today, that they showed the last scene of the movie in the trailer. I go, it's called the Sejan's Gambit. Get on board. It
And they
exists.
do that shit.
And they do
It's
that
always
shit all the time.
it's a weird sign because I can't tell yet. It hasn't been around long enough for me to figure out if it's a good thing or not.
What?
Like if it's a sign that a movie's going to be kind of enjoyable to me, maybe.
Yeah, well, of course. That's why you're the trope namer.
Mhm.
If they Sejan's Gambit, Sejan's gonna like it. But it's just weird when it shows something and then you're waiting for that the whole movie. It's sort of like Hot Tub Time Machine is my go-to like example for this. That whole movie you're waiting for Crispin Glover to lose his fucking arm. So
Right.
like if they show something in the Sejan's Gambit and you're like, oh, so that's gonna happen, and then you see the item that she's like holding up and you're like, okay, so when's she gonna get it? Is it now? Oh god, she's holding it. Oh god, she gave it back.
Oh man. Yeah.
So that was something. While we're talking about cinema, do you have any other topics besides this? I mean, this was technically a me topic because it's a movie that I saw.
No, man. No, we did my thing. I shit all over the president. I'm good. Let's do
Oh,
this
cool.
thing.
So last night was Valentine's Day, and I was gonna go out, just for a ride with some friends to hang out. People who like didn't have plans, like we're just gonna hang out. And I thought to myself, I should fill up a bottle, like an empty bottle of water, with water.
Okay.
And that brought me back to a movie that I want to say came out in like 97. It came out between 97 and like 2000. You can look it up once I tell you the title so we can give people like some closure on this. Where there's a scene with a empty bottle of water being filled up. And this thought in my head caused me to use today to return to me. The David Duchovny Mini Driver
Oh man. I love that
romantic
movie.
comedy that is. So if you could look up when it comes out, that'd be fantastic.
I do believe it's like 99 or something to that effect. It's pre 9/11 for sure, right?
Yes,
Like
obviously.
yeah. It is 2000 on the nose.
2000, yeah. So I knew it was between like 97 and 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why this movie jumped into I'll explain the scene later, but the other part about this film, and in light of a film like Isn't It Romantic coming out, today, this week, with Rebel Wilson, we don't see a lot of the magic movie anymore, like where there's like external magical forces at work.
Yeah, what's the Sarah Michelle Gellar one where the
Simply
magic crab,
Irresistible.
yeah, the magic crab helps throughout the whole movie, right?
The magic crab helps, but like I don't think she's in league with the crab. It's
No,
just
I
like
think-
there's
I think
a
the-
magic crab there, and you're just
Yeah.
supposed to like.
Simply Irresistible is one that they float though, right? Or is that practical magic? That might be practical magic.
I think they
Where they
float-
kiss in the kitchen and float. And maybe it's
That-
both of
I don't know. The thing that I remember from Simply Irresistible is men think about sex 30 times a day. If they're playing with their belt, that's the visual cue that they're thinking about sex.
What a stupid movie.
And the guy's like, I don't wear a belt. But then he's got his thumb hooked through one of his belt loops on his pants. And I'm like, what is this movie that I'm watching?
Jeez.
What is happening? Well, like, but I wouldn't, like, you bring up practical magic as well, but I wouldn't lump that into the same category, because a movie like Simply Irresistible or Return to Me, for all intent and purposes, it is the real world, and magic is not a thing that is known to exist.
You're talking about the difference between like a magic movie and a movie with magical realism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. But
Yeah.
but I'm also talking about like there was that huge resurgence in like the 60s, 70s where you had like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
the 90s, you know, because the 90s were like the original nostalgia factory, which is why we're so nostalgic for the 90s now, tried to recapture that with shows like Steven Weber and Cursed
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
You Wish on TGI Friday with the genie and the rug. It was I Dream of Genie, but like the Distaff counterpart. Teen Angel
Yeah,
and
even
Sabrina the Teenage
Charmed.
Witch. Yeah, like Charmed. Like there was this like real time where like magical realism became like what you saw in movies, and Return to Me is such an example of that in my own like life and mind because all right, so here's what Return to Me is about. David
Yeah.
Duchovny is married to
The
a
twist is insane in this one. If you thought fucking Serenity had a weird twist to it, the twist in this
right,
one.
and that was exactly what I was gonna come up with. Like, or maybe we're getting back there because a movie like Serenity came out, but but David Duchovny is married to this blonde lady who works at the zoo. I don't know the actress who plays her. I don't know her character's name is Elizabeth, and I only know that because there's a scene where he's like, "I'll always love Elizabeth." And I'm like, oh, that was your wife's name. Oh, and why will he always love Elizabeth? Because after a fundraiser at the zoo to try to build a gorilla habitat, she dies in a car accident.
Yeah.
They get
Yep.
sideswiped. They hit the passenger side, and she dies. And that's sad. But,
Yep.
like, while David Duchovny was trying to avoid interacting with, like, rich old people at this zoo fundraiser, we're introduced to Minnie Driver basically dying in a bed. And it turns out she has heart disease, and she needs a heart transplant. And, lo and behold, luck of the draw, David Duchovny's wife, Elizabeth, was an organ donor.
And a match.
And her heart wasn't damaged in the car crash. Which, that seems like the most improbable part of it.
The most magical part of it.
No, the magical part of it is, so this whole thing happens, and then we jump forward in time a year. Minnie Driver has recovered, but she's got, like, guilt because she's only alive because someone else had to die. So... David Alan Grier is in this movie, which is another reason why I wanted to watch it again.
I thought you were gonna be like, another reason why this movie is magical.
I mean, yeah, Dag is definitely a magical being. All hail the Dag. But it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, yeah, David Alan Grier is the black friend, which was another trope of the 90s movies.
Of course, especially the romantic comedy, yeah.
So he sets him up on this blind date, and they go to, I think it's O'Malley's Italian restaurant. Because the whole thing is that, like, it's Robert Loggia, and I don't remember who plays her grandfather, but, like, one's Irish and one's Italian, so they make Irish-Italian food. Like, you'll get spinach ravioli with a side of cabbage.
Yeah.
Or
That's, wait, it's
corned
not,
beef flambe.
it's not, oh god, who plays the brother in it? No, never mind. He's not the other guy.
No,
that
Jim
owns the
Belushi's
restaurant.
in the
Not
movie.
Jim
Don't
Belushi, yeah.
worry.
Jim Belushi's in the movie, but he's not the other guy. Never mind.
Yeah, he's married to Bonnie, Bonnie Hunt, who was
wrote
also
Breakfast
like,
Club.
you can't have a romantic comedy in the 90s without Bonnie Hunt.
Yeah, she wrote and directed it.
Did she write and direct Return to Me?
Uh-huh.
That's freaking crazy.
Yeah, that's yeah. It's
There's
like one of her
the
big
twist.
things.
There's
Yeah.
a crazier twist.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he goes to this restaurant where Minnie Driver like happens to work, and like her heart is beating faster because apparently the heart is sentient and knows that its former husband is there.
Tell that it's him. The heart knows.
And then they meet each other and they're like, have we met before? Oh, let's talk cute, meet cute, So then they start dating, and their dating is pretty much all montage. Like, it's a long-ass montage in this movie. And then, like, she's all like nervous because she's got a huge fucking scar on her chest from where she got the heart transplant. And it always seems like when people find out about the heart transplant, they treat her like she's a delicate little flower. So
Yeah,
she
yeah.
doesn't, she likes David Duchovny. Who wouldn't? Dana Scully, that's who. Gillian Anderson, you goddamn fool. Waiting, what, 7 seasons before you make a move?
Yeah, and then apparently it happens off screen, but anyway.
Thank you.
Fucking X-Files movies.
But so she's like ready to show him because she's like, I love him enough and I think that he'll treat me the same way even though. And they're at his house. He's making popcorn and she finds like a newspaper article about the car crash. And then under the newspaper is the letter she sent to him thanking them, the donor family, for the heart because she wakes up every day only because of their loss.
Yeah.
And so she freaks the fuck out because how can I tell him that I have his dead wife's heart in me?
This movie. Yeah, yeah, man.
And then, you know,
it's nuts. It is one of the darkest, weirdest concepts ever on paper for a beautifully romantic little film that really never actually gets that serious. Like as much as there is this terrible car crash and they do deal with that, it never gets ham-fisted or heavy to the point where like the rest of it falls apart. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't seem out of place when those moments happen, is what I mean.
No, yeah, it does a beautiful job building a world where this stuff can happen. The only thing that I don't love is that, like, apparently animals and the animal kingdom are fully aware of, like, the heart abilities in this world. Because,
The heart
like,
magic.
the dog, like, the dog won't walk away from the door because he's waiting for the wife to come home. And then, like, Minnie Driver comes and he's like, oh, she's back because the heart is back. Like, and there's also this, like, weird thing. Like, this is one of those things that you don't think about when you're watching the movie, but you think about it later. And it's like, does Minnie Driver only like him because she has his dead wife's heart inside of her?
You start
Like,
thinking some weird shit because you're like, wait a minute. So this is the first time in my life, maybe I'm wrong about in film, but in my life, it was the first time that I ever really thought about the connection between the fact that happy Valentine's Day, everybody. We give out paper hearts, right? And then like, but the heart organ itself is something very different. Like they don't even look the same. Like what the heart actually does, the idea that it is the love organ is kind of ridiculous considering how many other organs on the body would probably be better suited to that word, right? Like there's so many other things. Like the heart is one of the last things that you actually would, if you dissected a human and had no like understanding of like our culture as people in the world, right? Like the heart is the last one that you would point at and be like, and this is where the love lives, all right? Like it's like that's not what you would do, but it is a concept that we all live with, we all talk about, we all deal with. Every time we give love to somebody, it's always in a heart form, right?
Hallmark.
Well, so this idea that the soul is also somehow tied to it, but she's not like, it's not like the Killer Hand movie where like suddenly she's just like she thinks she is this woman. She is fully functionally aware that she is a separate person. She just happens to have this piece of this woman that like you said, the animals all know, and like he has a weird sense. There's like a weird animal instinct.
Well, yeah, so watching it again today, there's this moment where like it starts beating inside of her chest, and it does a smash cut to him like crying on the floor, and he like perks up, and it's like, oh my god, he hears it beating. Like that's what that's supposed to represent. Is that he knows her heart beats again. He will find her.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's a
weird
lovely movie, but it's real weird.
You know what's a really good one also in this like weird magical realism?
I would love to get to it, but I'd like to just finish the stupid scene that like got me to rewatch this movie is the woman he's on a date with at O'Malley's is like, I don't drink tap water.
The one that goes like horribly wrong.
It needs to be bottled water, and it can't be Swiss. I had some Swiss water once. It made me sick. So then Minnie Driver's like, okay, you fucking crazy bitch. and walks away. And then David Duchovny gets a phone call. So he goes to like the hostess station to take the phone call and witnesses Minnie Driver, and this is how you know it's 2000, empty a bottle of Aquafina into the sink
Yeah.
and then fill it from the tap. And he's like, that's friggin' hilarious. What you just did. But then Minnie Driver's like, oh god, he saw me. Like it's gonna be bad. And then and so that's all I was thinking about. So I'm like, I'm gonna fill like an empty bottle up with water just so I have water with me while I'm driving around tonight. And I'm like, kind of like in Return to Me. But then I'm gonna ruin the best joke in it, and then you can share your movie. I'm very sorry. Is that woman that Duchovny's on a blind date with is like just a dumpster fire of a human being.
Yeah.
Like they're at an Irish Italian restaurant, and she's like, everything looks so fattening. Is there anything on the menu that's not cooked in oil? And then Minnie Driver goes, we have a few, but those are boiled in Swiss water. and like the table is like so fucking offended. Like, how dare this waitress like make a joke like that? And Duchovny loses his shit. Like, he laughs his ass off.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that makes a movie work is Duchovny and Minnie Driver are both like aces in it. The way that they act with each other in that movie is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, you're not wrong. This idea of this like magical like love movie is something that kind of trails on for a bit, because then you end up with, honestly, my favorite one of the entire genre has to be Serendipity, like with John Cusack and, is it Kate Winslet? No, Kate Beckinsale.
It's Kate
right?
Beckinsale. Yes. Well,
yeah.
One of the other things subconsciously is Dale and my mother were in New York City last night for a Billy Joel concert. And I'm sure if you listen to Stay Reporter Jr., that's all that episode's going to be about, is Dale going to finally see Billy Joel in concert. But they went to Serendipity and got hot chocolate. So, like, that movie was also sort of in my head.
Yeah.
And that is, you know what I like about Serendipity is The Godfather. There was another thing going on in movies at the time where, like, we have to reference that The Godfather is the greatest movie of all time. Like, You've Got Mail has that whole scene, and then in Serendipity, Cusack's like, it's like The Godfather. It's like The Godfather Part 3. Like, you know it's not as good as The Godfather or Godfather Part 2, but you kind of want to watch it because you need to see how it ends. And, like, that's his justification to Jeremy Piven that he needs to find Kate Beckinsale again before he gets married to, like, another dumpster trash human of a person.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, man. Now I want to go watch a bunch of just, like, magical, like...
and that is exactly
magical
what
romantic comedies.
Devon Decker, objective complete, trophy unlocked, guest Siege to want to watch a bunch of magical romance movies. You know what's another one that I like? Is When in Rome.
Yeah, I was just about to say with
Kristen Bell.
Kristen Bell, and isn't Dax one of the dudes in that movie?
Dax Shepard, Will Arnett, Danny DeVito, right? John Heder. I mean, the love interest is everybody's favorite. I can't think of his name right now. Josh Duhamel.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
But
God, When in Rome. I was just talking about that movie the other night too, because we were talking. Been watching Cheers again because you said it, and then we were talking about Ted Danson, which of course got us to The Good Place, and then of course I somehow found my way to When in Rome. So do that 6 degrees.
You kind of just did.
But well, yeah, but how we ended up talking about.
But then the best part is that from When in Rome, you can get right back to Cheers through the Danny DeVito Rhea Perlman connection.
There it is.
Whoop whoop. Cyclical, baby. Sorry.
It's funny she started her career in a bar and he's ending his career in a bar. Anyway.
Carla Kosuchi is such a good character. And she's from Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Yeah. Oh my God. That show.
So Cheers is the perfect place to sort of like end everything we've talked about this episode, because it finally happened.
Yeah.
Funko is making Cheers pop figures.
Damn, I'm honestly surprised it took them this long.
They were,
Funko,
dude. I've been
yeah.
waiting for them since 2014. It is so far they only have announced 5. If they don't do the other like cast members, I will be very upset. I'm gonna be just straight with you.
Can I guess the 5?
Yes, please guess the 5.
So Sam and Diane, right?
Of course, Sam and Diane.
Norm,
Norm.
Cliff.
Yup. One left.
Who would the last one be? Would it be Coach?
You know, you'd think it'd be Coach, but you'd be 3 seasons too early.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Christy Alley that comes in, right?
It's Woody. Woody is the... Because, unfortunately, Nick Colasanto passed away between the 3rd and 4th, and then Woody Harrelson came in.
All right. Okay, well, I mean, that does kind of make sense, though, in terms of afterwards. I mean, we've had this conversation, right, about Woody Harrelson after Cheers, right?
Yeah, yes. Woody Harrelson is, without a doubt, the breakout character from Cheers in terms of going from silver screen, the small screen to the silver screen.
You know why they'll end up doing another round, though, is because you do have a bunch of other built-in, like, pretty memorable characters still. With Frasier alone, like, can you imagine doing a Frasier Crane Cheers edition, right?
It better be friggin' the Cheers Frasier Crane. It better not be that they release one Frasier that is supposed to encompass Cheers and Frasier, because it's not the same character. You know it, I know it. I've said it 100,000 times before.
Oh, man.
But but it's the weirdest thing about it, right? Even discounting the Woody of it all, is that Cliff is there, because Cliff did not exist until after John Ratzenberger auditioned for Norm, because he was one of the people who originally auditioned for the role of Norm, and then they called him up and they're like, nah, we're going to go with somebody else, but thank you very much for coming by. He's like, hey, you know what your bar needs? A know-it-all. Every bar has a know-it-all. Maybe let me try that role. So they're like, yeah, okay, that's you come in, Mr. Ratzenberger, and we'll like throw you a line every couple episodes, like you'll be a featured extra. And then by season 2, he's in the fucking credits. Like John Ratzenberger as Cliff Clavin is such a success story for just like never take no for an answer. 'Cause they're like, no, you can't be Norm Peterson. And he's like, hey, common misconception. I'm going to be in your show,
though. Wonderful Ratzenberger, by the way.
No, I really just do Cliff Clavin. That's what I go for. It's so it's weird that, like, he would get one before Carla in a lot of ways. Because she was always there in the DNA of Cheers.
Yeah.
And it's also an unfortunate truth that, like, a lot of people don't remember Coach, which, like, breaks my heart because he's such an important character to me in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But I bet you in the next round you could do Carla, Frasier, Coach, right? Like, you could pick up the slack on a bunch of those characters. Yeah. Funko, man. Jesus.
But I can't believe it's happening, and I need to at least have a Norm. And I would be okay not doing Sam and Diane, but Diane... Is her reading that stupid red book. They have her with that stupid red book in the nice. Purple top from that episode, and I'm just like, how dare you pick like the best Diane? The only thing that would be better is if they somehow put her under the bar in the grate.
Oh man, her with that book, and I bet you that Sam comes with his chest hair, right? Is that what
Sam is just standing there looking like the coolest fucking guy in the world? Yes. It's just like, removable hairpiece. Nah, man, Ted Danson, we love you at the Say Report. So that I think that covers it from me. You have anything you want to add before we let these lovely people go on with their days?
Yeah, man. If you don't feel like you're in a state of emergency right now, then you're probably not. So it's all gonna be okay.
Yeah. Even though our checks and balances are sort of removed in this moment,
being tested, they are not gone yet.
There are people who are already working at figuring out how to stop this.
Mm-hmm.
So unless, yeah, that's right. If you don't feel like you're in a state of emergency, you're probably not. And if you'd like to talk to me about Cheers, and I invite all comers to talk about Cheers, please find me on Twitter at Devon D. Decker.
And if you got any other magical romantic comedies that you want me to check out, I'm totally down now. Like I'm totally invested in this. So hit me up at Siege versus the World. I forgot the important part. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to throw it over to our eternal Valentine, Will.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Stephen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.